Hey everyone, thanks for watching this video in which I will be reviewing this. This is the GSI Pinnacle Basecamper Cookset. I've had this thing for many years now. I've used it for long hiking trips, short hiking trips, a lot of camping, etc. I've used this many times, so I'll kind of give you a rundown of my personal experience using it, what I like, what I didn't like, things that I wish was better, things that actually worked out really well with this, how it was with cooking, especially when you're outdoors and you're kind of like left to the elements, how this performed. So let's talk about it. So guys, I guess the first thing you should know about this is that this is a small. Now they come in two sizes, there's a small and a large. I personally own the small, and just so you know, this is actually the small is only good for one person, at most two people. So you're not cooking a whole meal at the campsite for more than two people. Like it'll be kind of a stretch to cook for 3 or 4 people. So keeping that in mind, it's really only for one person or for 2 people to cook dinner with. So this is the whole package that it comes in. Like I said, the small retails for $110 on the GSI website. The large one is obviously the only difference is the wider pan and a deeper pot. The small retails for $110 US. You can get it for $135 at MEC, for $135 Canadian dollars at MEC. And this whole thing here, it weighs 2.13 pounds, so it's not super heavy and it's not super light either. I would say it's kind of in a mid-ground, but honestly, considering the amount of actual pots and pans in here, 2.13 pounds is not a bad weight for it. It's actually very, very decent. It's fairly lightweight for what it is. The dimensions, just to give you an idea, is 8.2 inches across. So the width is 8.2 inches, and the height on it is 5.4 inches. Just if you want to compare that to how it's going to fit into your backpack, etc. So this is the whole package. This is what it comes in. Give you a little twirly thing there. Let's just unpack this and I'll show you what's actually included inside. And once I do that, we can get into the actual specs and the details of it. So you kind of unhook it here with a little hook. It's not a buckle or anything, it's just a simple hook. It's nice, it's solid. Just unhook it. There you go. It's kind of like a bra there. It's very easy. The first thing on top is your pan. That is your pan. That is 8-inch frying pan. That's that. We'll set that aside. Next up would be 2 lids. One lid here. Comes with a little handle there, not to burn your fingers, and it also lays flat so you can kind of store it on top. The next one is the exact same thing. There's 2 of these lids. I honestly don't know why there's 2 lids. I only use one at a time. But anyways, that's a nice little bonus thing to have, and they're very light, so it doesn't really matter if there's 2. So as you can see, they're exactly identical to each other. They both have strainers here, so you can kind of strain your water if you're boiling any water or pasta or whatever. I'll show you those in a second. So that's that, and inside I keep the handle here. It is a collapsible handle. You just put a little knob there, and you have that, and you can kind of pick up the pots and pans. I'll show you like this. It clips in. There you go, and you unhook it. So they have that, and it's good. That's collapsible. You only have one handle for all the pots and pans, which is actually very handy. And then on the bottom there is a little, if I can pull it out, is a it's not exactly the easiest thing, but there's a cutting board. It's basically just a prep cutting board. It's simple, it's floppy, it's light. I don't really use this for a cutting board. I find it a bit small. I mean, I've used it, obviously you can see the scratches on it, but I've used it a couple times for small things, but generally I find it too small for my needs. But it's handy if you want it. It just stores in there, you don't even notice it. You can also use it as a hot plate, put it there on a table. Use it as a hot plate, so that is that. Next up would be the smaller of the two pots. So the smaller one here, that one's right there. I'll show you that. And this is a 1.5 liter pot. You can see it's been used. I've used it a lot, so there's markings on it, but it still doesn't affect the actual performance of it. It's just purely an aesthetic thing. I kind of like pots that kind of look used anyways. So that's the first one, and the last pot here is the larger of the 2 pots. This is a 2 liter pot. There, it's there. It has a little handle hook there as well. And that's that. Boil a lot of water in here for anything, if you want hot water to wash dishes, etc. So that's the pot there. Now this here, the sack that it comes in is like, this is it right here, just to give you, to show you. It kind of holds everything nice and tight. It can also double as a sink. So you can put water in here, use it to wash your dishes, etc. For whatever you want. If you want to transport some water, I guess you can like kind of, I've never actually transported water in this. I kind of just use it just to wash the pots and pans once in a while. So that's the whole kit right there. So you have what, one piece, the pan, the cutting board, two lids with the strainers, the larger pot, smaller pot, the handle for all of them, and the actual carrying case for it. So let's just talk about the actual materials on these things. So these, the pots and the pans are made of anodized aluminum, and they're all non-stick and they're Teflon coated. I personally have never had any problems with food sticking on here. It really does a good job with that. It really helps when you don't have to scrub when you're washing. So they're all the same material. They're all anodized aluminum. The lids are made of nylon here. And let me give you a few things here. Like this, like I showed you before, this the handle here, where you clip it on each one like that. These do tend, if you put this over a fire, and I have put these over actual live fire. More of the pots in the pan, but I've done it with all of them. If you put this on a fire over a grate, this handle will get hot. So a good thing is to do is when you put this, if you put it on a grill on top of the fire, just unclip, don't forget to unclip this and don't keep it there because it will get really hot. Now in terms of keeping it on top of a live fire, you can see there's a little bit of burn marks so that's happened over the years. But it's never, it never dented or anything. It never warped. There was never any issues with that. You can see for all of them, they all have those burn marks, but never have they ever had any weird deformations or dents on it because of the heat. Now, I wouldn't recommend keeping it there for too long. I've kept it there long enough to boil water on top of a fire and cook the food. But other than that, as you can see, it's held up pretty well with that. Now, having said that, a couple of cons that I kind of found that to be issues would be if I were to, especially the pan, if I were to put this on a burner, for example. Now this is the Msr Pocket Rocket, which I will do a review on in the near future. But for now, if you lay this on there, obviously it depends on the width of the actual base that's holding the actual pot in. So this is, I don't know how wide that is, but that's just a standard size. I found that sometimes it can get a little bit tippy. Obviously, like as you can see, let me just give you a little idea there. It kind of like doesn't like open all the way up. It doesn't like hold it, keep it, you know, it's not too wide of a burner. But so I did find in my experience that it does kind of like, you got to be kind of careful that there's not too much weight on one way or on one side or the other. And as well, if you have something super light in here, let me give you an example. Let's pretend this is on, for example. If you have something super, let's say eggs, for example, if you want to clip this on top, you kind of have to like hold it down so you don't kind of tip it over, because as you can see, it kind of like, it doesn't like slide right in without it moving the pan. So you kind of have to like be careful because this does get hot. So just, you know, hold it with a cloth or something, and then you can clip it. Then you can kind of like handle it as much as you want. You can do your flips, whatever you do, however you cook. When you unhook it, that's not a problem. That one, you just like, you slide, let me just show you there. You slide this back and you put it down. That's no problem. It doesn't need any support for that. But it's when you need it, when you're putting it in is when you actually need to hold it in so it doesn't tip over. And that actually applies mainly to the pan, but it could apply to the pots as well. The pots, because normally pots would have water in it, so it kind of weighs it down, so you wouldn't have that much of an issue doing that. But just be careful when you are doing that, you know, you're not accidentally, you know, carelessly putting this up and then flipping the entire contents over. And it actually applies as well. Let's get rid of this Msr Pocket Rocket, and give you another example. I have another burner here that I actually use for more often than the other one. This is the Msr Whisper Light, which I haven't reviewed yet, but I will be getting down to that reviewing this. But this is the Msr Whisper Light burner. There, as you can see, it's also not. I mean, it's wider than this one. It's wider than the Pocket Rocket. Just give you a little size comparison, right there. So this one does have more surface area to hold it. As well though, but it doesn't, I mean, it's still an issue. Like, let me show you. See, so it actually does cover pretty much the whole pan, which is pretty much good enough. So it will hold this more sturdier than the other one will. However, when you're also putting this, when you're putting the handle on, you still have to be careful that you're not tipping it over, because normally it's, see how light it is. And even if I pull this back and I try to snap it on with one hand, it's still kind of like, it still does it, but it doesn't lock in place. So you might have to like hold it down with something and then clip it on, and then you can do whatever you want. Again, when you unclip it, that's not an issue. You can unclip it with one hand. It's when you're clipping it in that you need to use two hands. Same applies for these other ones as well. Actually, the pots are a lot more sturdier on this. So that's just an example, something to keep in mind. Let's talk about these lids. So these lids are, let me show you. So these lids are exactly the same size. There's two lids very identical to each other. They both have straining things, but however, you will find that this lid only fits for the medium size, the smaller of the two pots, for the 1.5 liter pot. It does not cover the 2 liter pot. It does, but as you can see, it kind of like goes into it. It doesn't actually go on the rim, which is not a problem if you don't fill it up with too much water, but it's not completely sealed. So if you were to strain pasta or something when you're, or strain water or whatever, vegetables or whatever, and you're straining it, it's best to put it into the smaller of the two pots. So you can kind of like, when you're there, just clip it on like that, and then you can just like hold it and then strain the water out. As you can see there, the holes there. So these lids only actually cover the smaller pot. It doesn't even cover the pan. Now the pan, if it fits right in there, it doesn't cover it. So what do you do if you want to boil water faster and you need more water? And I throw this on the fire on a burner or something. This is a larger pot. Actually, you're supposed to use this the pan as a lid. But as you can see, it doesn't like snap on. It's not secure on there. It's kind of like just laying on top of it. So just be careful with that. But it does help heat up the water faster. But just keep in mind that you know, it's not an actual lid. It's just kind of like to keep it warm. You can even put it this side if you want. It's actually a bit snug if you put it the right side up, and then that will help heat up your water faster if you'd like. But that's what my little thing I don't understand is why they gave you two lids at exact same size. I guess you can lid both for some reason, but I wish there was a lid that at least either fit one or the other. Actually, these two are the same width, so you know, I wish they gave us a lid that actually can use to cover this or to cover this, the pan or the pot. So I generally only use one lid when I'm using this. So in my experience using the GSI Pinnacle Basecamp cookware set, is that although it has its flaws, it's still good enough for me. Like, you ever been in a relationship where like you've been with someone and the longer you're with that person, the more you start to realize little things here and there that irks you about them. But at the same time, on the flip side, the longer you're with them, the more you realize how awesome and dependable that person is to you. Like, I've had other cookware sets that I've been tempted to buy, only because they're newer, or there's more features to them, etc. But at the end of the day, I'm like, no, I'm good with my GSI. We've been through a lot of excellent trips together, out hiking and camping and stuff. And although there's small things that I wish would have changed about it, at the end of the day, the one thing I know is that this will never fail me when I need it. And for me, that's good enough to use this until it dies. I give this GSI Pinnacle Basecamp cookware set a 7.75 out of 10.